The little girl's voice was barely audible, a whisper that cut through the pristine silence of the executive lobby like a knife through silk. My mommy is sick, but she still works. She clutched a crumpled drawing in her small hands, her eyes, too knowing, too weary for a 6-year-old, fixed on the polished marble floor. In that moment, standing in his $1,000 suit with a phone pressed to his ear discussing quarterly profits, Marcus Chen felt something crack inside his chest. He'd spent 20 years building walls around his heart, brick by brick, success by success. But this child, with her whispered confession and trembling fingers, had found a fissure he didn't know existed. Marcus was the kind of CEO people wrote business school case studies about. At 42, he'd transformed a failing tech company into a billion-dollar empire. Forbes called him ruthless. The Wall Street Journal called him brilliant. His employees called him the Ice King, behind closed doors, never to his face. He demanded excellence, tolerated no excuses, and believed that sentiment had no place in the boardroom. His own childhood, marked by poverty, an absent father, and a mother who worked 3 jobs, had taught him that survival meant being harder than the world around you. Emotions were luxuries he couldn't afford. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Marcus arrived at TechVision Industries at 6:30 a.m., an hour before anyone else. He liked the silence, the way his footsteps echoed through empty corridors, the sense that he controlled this small kingdom before the chaos of the day began. He was reviewing termination papers for underperforming employees when he heard it, the soft sob echoing from the lobby downstairs. Security footage would later show him pausing mid-stride, coffee cup suspended in his hand. Something made him investigate rather than delegate the matter to security. Perhaps it was the particular pitch of distress, or perhaps it was the universe finally demanding he pay attention. The little girl sat on a leather chair far too big for her frame, legs dangling, not quite reaching the floor. She wore a faded pink jacket with a missing button and sneakers that had seen better days. Beside her, slumped against the wall near the janitor's closet, was a woman Marcus recognized immediately. Sarah Mitchell, night cleaning crew, employee number 2847. He'd never spoken to her, but he'd seen her in reports, reliable, never missed a shift, invisible in the way the best service workers are. But Sarah wasn't working now. She was unconscious, her breathing shallow, her face pale as winter snow. Mommy was cleaning, and then she just fell down, the little girl said, and now Marcus could see the tears streaming down her cheeks, leaving clean trails through the dust on her face. She's been sick for a long time, but we can't go to the doctor because she says we can't afford it. She has to work. We need the money for my brother's medicine. He has asthma, and without his inhaler. Marcus was already on his phone, barking orders. Call 911. Now. Yes, this is an emergency. CEO override, I want the best paramedics, the fastest response time. He shed his jacket, folding it carefully before placing it over Sarah's shivering form. Then he did something that would have shocked his entire executive team. He sat down on the floor beside the little girl. What's your name? He asked, his voice gentler than it had been in years. Emma, she whispered. Emma Mitchell. I'm 6 3/4. Emma, I'm Marcus. Your mom is going to be okay. I promise you. It was a promise he had no business making, but looking into those frightened eyes, he couldn't help himself. The paramedics arrived within minutes. As they loaded Sarah onto a gurney, Emma clutched Marcus's hand with surprising strength. Can I go with her? Please. I don't have anyone else. My grandma lives far away, and my brother's at school, and you're coming with me, Marcus said firmly. All of you. At Mercy General Hospital, Marcus learned things that made his quarterly profit margins seem obscene. Sarah Mitchell was a 34-year-old widow. Her husband had died 2 years earlier in a construction accident, leaving her with 2 children, mounting medical bills, and no life insurance. She worked 3 jobs, day shift at a grocery store, evening shift at a diner, and night shift cleaning at TechVision. She'd been hiding her own illness, a severe kidney infection that had progressed to sepsis, because she couldn't afford to miss work. The medical bills for her son's asthma medication already consumed most of her paycheck. She's been in pain for weeks, Emma said, sitting in the hospital waiting room, her small fingers wrapped around a hot chocolate Marcus had purchased from the cafeteria. She cries at night when she thinks we're asleep. But she always gets up. She always goes to work. Marcus thought about his own mother, dead now for 5 years. She'd worked herself into an early grave, too proud to ask for help, too afraid to stop. He'd been 17 when her heart finally gave out, standing over a frying pan in a diner kitchen, serving food she couldn't afford to eat herself. He'd sworn then that he'd never be poor again, never be powerless again. But somewhere along the way, accumulating power had made him forget what it was for. Dr. Patricia Rodriguez, the attending physician, pulled Marcus aside. "Your employee is very sick. The infection has spread. We're starting aggressive antibiotics, but she'll need at least a week of hospitalization, possibly more. And frankly, Mr. Chen, I've seen her medical history. This is just the tip of the iceberg. She needs follow-up care, specialists, proper rest. None of which she can afford, even with basic insurance." "She has insurance?" Marcus asked. "Minimum coverage for part-time employees, drive," Rodriguez said, her voice tight with barely concealed frustration. "It covers almost nothing. Deductible is so high it might as well not exist." Marcus pulled out his phone. His assistant, Janet, answered on the first ring despite it being barely 8 a.m. "Cancel everything today. I want our head of HR and our benefits administrator in the hospital conference room in 1 hour. I also want the contact information for every single employee working multiple jobs. And Janet, I want a full audit of our health insurance policies. By tomorrow." The little girl's drawing was still in his pocket. He pulled it out, smoothing the wrinkled paper. It showed 3 stick figures, a tall one, a small one, and a tiny one, holding hands under a yellow sun. Above them, in careful, crooked letters, Emma had written, "My family. We love each other. No mansions, no cars, no money. Just love in each other." Everything Marcus had lost in his climb to the top. When Sarah Mitchell woke up 36 hours later, she found her daughter asleep in a chair beside her bed, wearing clean clothes, her face scrubbed and peaceful. Across the room, in a corner chair, sat Marcus Chen, CEO of TechVision Industries, working on his laptop. "Mr. Chen." Her voice was hoarse, confused. "What are you doing here?" "Oh God, my shift. I'm so sorry, I'll make up the hours, Sarah," Marcus said quietly, closing his laptop. "You're not in trouble. You're never going to be in trouble again. Over the next hour," he explained. Her medical bills, all of them, past and present, would be covered by a new company medical fund. She would transition to a single, full-time position at TechVision with full benefits, a living wage, and flexible hours. Her children would have access to a childcare program and scholarship fund he was establishing. But more than that, he was restructuring the entire company's benefits program. No more minimum coverage. No more employees working themselves to death because they couldn't afford to live. "I don't understand," Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Why would you do this?" Marcus looked at Emma, still sleeping, her small hand clutching her mother's. "Because your daughter reminded me of something I'd forgotten. She reminded me that behind every employee number, there's a person. Behind every person, there's a family. Behind every family, there's a story of courage I'll never fully understand." He paused, his voice thick. "My mother died doing exactly what you were doing. Working herself to death because the system gave her no choice. I became successful so I'd never be powerless again. But I used that power to become exactly like the people who failed my mother. Emma helped me see that real power isn't what you take for yourself. It's what you give to others." The story spread through TechVision Industries like wildfire. The Ice King had melted. Within weeks, Marcus had implemented sweeping changes: living wages, comprehensive health coverage, mental health support, childcare assistance, and a hardship fund for employees facing emergencies. The board protested. Shareholders grumbled about reduced profit margins. Marcus didn't care. "We can be profitable and humane," he told the board meeting that quarter. "And if you disagree, I'll buy you out myself." 6 months later, something unexpected happened. Employee retention soared. Productivity increased. The company culture transformed from cutthroat to collaborative. Applications flooded in from top talent who wanted to work for a company that valued its people. TechVision's revenue didn't decrease, it grew. Emma Mitchell visited the office once a month, always bringing Marcus a new drawing. The one hanging behind his desk, in a frame more expensive than most people's monthly rent, showed a stick figure in a suit holding hands with two small stick figures under a rainbow. The caption read, "Thank you for seeing us." On the day Sarah Mitchell was promoted to facilities manager, overseeing the very cleaning staff she'd once been part of, Marcus stood at his office window, watching employees stream into the building. Each one a person, each one a story, each one visible now in ways they hadn't been before. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Emma peeked around the door, grinning, Sarah close behind. "Mr. Marcus, I wrote something for school. About heroes. Want to hear it?" Marcus smiled, a real smile, the kind that reached his eyes, the kind he'd forgotten how to make. "I'd love to." As Emma read her essay about kindness being the greatest superpower, Marcus Chen understood something profound. He'd spent 20 years building an empire. But it took a whispered confession from a 6-year-old girl to teach him how to build a legacy. Sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is simply listen. And sometimes, the smallest voice carries the greatest truth.